May 22, 1980. Howard Beach, Queens. A quiet suburban street. The smell of charcoal grills and cut grass. Suddenly, the screech of tires breaks the silence. John Favara, a neighbor, is forced into a van. He is never seen again. On paper, this was a revenge killing ordered by John Gotti for the accidental death of his son. The FBI believed it. The press printed it. They were wrong. Behind the heavy curtains of the Gotti residence, the dapper Don wasn't the one screaming for blood. He was the one trying to manage the fallout. The order didn't come from the Burgeon fish and meat market. It came from the kitchen table. John Gotti was the face of the Gambino family, but Victoria DiGiorgio was its conscience and its most ruthless architect. While the world watched the man in the $2,000 suit, the woman in the apron was quietly calibrating the family's survival. Gotti lied to the commission, telling them he couldn't control his grief-stricken wife. In reality, he couldn't disobey her.
Victoria DiGiorgio was no ordinary mob wife. Born to a Russian mother and an Italian father, she lacked the submissive conditioning of the old-world Brooklyn girls. She was the anchor to Gotti's volatile ambition. While John chased the street corner limelight, Victoria managed the household with a cold, calculated pragmatism. She wasn't just raising children, she was insulating a dynasty. To the Gambinos, John was the boss. To John, Victoria was the only person on earth he truly feared.
As Gotti climbed the ranks of the Gambino family, his public persona became a liability. Victoria understood the mechanics of power better than the street soldiers. While John spent his nights at the Ravenite Social Club, Victoria was the silent auditor of his loyalty. She didn't just tolerate the life, she curated it. She viewed the Mafia not as a brotherhood, but as a high-stakes corporate machine where John was the CEO and she was the chairman of the board.
The illusion of their suburban domesticity shattered on March 18, 1980. Frank Gotti, their 12-year-old son, darted into the street on a minibike and was struck by John Favara's car. It was a tragic accident, ruled as such by the police. But for Victoria, accidents were a weakness the family could not afford. Her grief wasn't a silent mourning, it was a cold, demanding vacuum. She didn't ask for justice, she demanded a vacuuming of the stain Favara had placed on the Gotti name.
The Favara incident wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a political landmine. Gotti was a rising star under Aniello Della Croce, and a messy, unsanctioned murder of a civilian neighbor threatened to bring the NYPD and the FBI crashing down on the Gambino hierarchy. Paul Castellano, the boss of bosses, demanded a quiet resolution. But Gotti was caught in a vice, the commission's protocols on one side and Victoria's relentless cold fury on the other. To ignore her was to lose the only foundation he had left. The tension in the Gotti household became a vacuum that sucked in every loyalist at the Bergen. John was caught in a lethal paradox. Following the commission's rules meant defying his wife's grief, an act of domestic treason he couldn't survive. Victoria stopped speaking. Her silence was a directive. To regain his standing at his own table, Gotti had to authorize a hit that violated the golden rule, killing a civilian. He chose to betray the Mafia's code to satisfy the shadow boss in his own home.
On July 28, 1980, the vacuum was filled. As John Favara walked to his car after a shift at the Castro Convertibles plant, he was clubbed over the head and shoved into a blue van. Witnesses saw the struggle, but in the shadow of the Gotti name, Howard Beach went blind. Favara was driven to a salvage yard, his body reportedly dissolved in a vat of acid, a method so clinical it bore the hallmark of a forensic cleansing. John Gotti was in Florida, a rehearsed alibi.
But Victoria remained in Queens, her silence finally broken by the grim satisfaction of a debt settled in blood.
The FBI flooded Howard Beach, but the Gotti silence had already taken root. By violating the Commission's rule against killing a civilian neighbor, John had signaled a new, reckless era for the Gambino family. While the feds looked for a body that no longer existed, Victoria resumed her role as the matriarch of a rising empire. The neighborhood learned the true hierarchy of power. John was the thunder that made the noise, but Victoria was the lightning that struck the target.
History remembers John Gotti as the Teflon Don, a man of suits, social clubs, and public defiance. Yet the Favara case reveals a deeper, darker architecture of power. It proves that the most formidable force in organized crime isn't found in a smoky back room, but at the dinner table. True control doesn't require a title. It requires the absolute conviction that blood is the only currency that never devalues. Gotti may have ruled New York, but Victoria ruled the man who ruled the city, proving that even the most powerful kings are merely subjects in their own homes.